What's up, YouTube? It's Chris with Murphy Firearms Training. I'm going to talk today about refletching arrows. To refletch your own arrows, you're going to need fletchings. You can get these as cheap as about 8 cents a piece, up to as high as about 50 or 60 cents a piece, depending on how you want to go. If you're just target archery shooting, trying that, 8 to 15 cents a piece is a good option. Okay. You will need two colors, so I'm using white and red. You will need a fletching jig. This is the most common type jig sold. It's a magnetic type jig, and I'll show you how to use that today. I have marked this one for the index fletching. So this is the odd fletching. When these two marks line up, there'll be 3 click marks on that. I'll show you that. You'll need some sort of adhesive, Quick Bond or Fletch Fuse, two popular options. These are specifically for fletchings. If you're doing a lot, I do suggest those. If you're only doing a few and you're very careful, super glue will work. I suggest a super glue gel, because the super glue gel is less likely to run and stick your fingers, your equipment, etc. But these are both liquids and they work very well. And you need some sort of vein stripper, okay, or fletching stripper. Now this one's a cheap one from Amazon. Works really well on these aluminum arrows, okay? And you literally just scrape till you get the shaft clean. This one actually has a curved blade. See the blade there? And you put this on the shaft here, and you put this on the shaft here, and you go like that and rip the fletching off. This is for like carbon fiber or fiberglass arrows, so that you don't gouge into the arrow and weaken the structure, because it is a composite. So your composite arrows, which are fiberglass or carbon, need a stripper that matches the curvature of the arrow. If you're using aluminum arrows, just this right here, some folks will even use their pocket knife. Get all the glue off, get it clean. So let's go through the process and see how it works. So I have 2 different arrows here today. This one, 2 of the fletchings. Okay, so this orange one and this white one are in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them. And this one here is coming off. Okay, so that is an arrow repair. This one here, one has come off. This one is ripped. And this one has a loose spot near the front. So basically all 3 fletchings on this one are no good. We're going to start over with a bare arrow. When I refletch my own personal arrows for hunting, if a fletching comes off, I strip them all off and go to a bare arrow and start from scratch. But a lot of folks who do target archery, they're trying to save some money. If 2 of your fletchings are on well, you can just replace one bad fletching, and I'll show you both of those. So for the arrow that needs just one fletching replaced, this one's actually so loose I can just peel it off by hand. And the mistake a lot of people make is they peel that fletching off and then they try to put a new fletching on. Okay, and by the way, you could even refletch this one without a jig, because these 2 are pointed in that direction. You could just set this one straight up and kind of get it right, and it'd be fine for target archery. I don't know, depends on how far you're shooting. But you're going to take your fletching stripper and you're actually going to strip this down to bare shaft. All right, so just going back and forth on the shaft like that, I have stripped this down to bare shaft. There's no glue residue left. We're going to put it in our fletching jig, and I'm going to show you how it works. So with the magnetic part off of the fletching jig, I'm actually going to put this in so that the index fletching, so this clips in, there's a little V-notch there. You're going to clip this into that notch and lay it just like that. This index fletching should be pointing up, basically where the clip would go. Okay, this should be pointing where the clip would go. Okay, if that's not the case, you need to readjust your nock, because that's how this is set up to work. We're going to click it to the next setting. That's where our bare fletching or bare vein would go. And then we're going to set up our clip. I like to put my clip up there. Your clip has marks on it, and you're going to try and figure out which mark lines up with the back of the existing fletchings. And it looks like that mark right there. So that's where I'm going to clip my new fletching. And since this has a orange index fletching and a white fletching, I need a second white fletching, so that's what I'm going to use. All right, so the fletching is at the mark we need it. I put it back up here, push it all the way back, and just dry fit. Does that look right? And if it does, then we're going to proceed to glue it. So let's take our clip. These clips are nice because they sit like this. We're going to put a bead of glue right in this channel here. All right. All right, so we're going to take our glue and come in here, get our glue flowing. Going to come in here with our glue. We're almost out of glue in this tube. We're going to put a nice bead of glue, nice and even, all the way across. Don't leave any voids. Okay, nice and even. I do it fairly heavily. Some folks might say it's too heavy. Put your bead of glue there. Going to take your fletching clip. Okay, going to hook it to our magnet. Go all the way back. Go down onto the arrow. And I like to just press lightly, just press it in, okay, like that, and hold it for 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. Some folks will actually hold it here till the glue sets, which can be a couple of minutes. I go 10 or 15 seconds, that's all I need. Once I've held it 10 or 15 seconds, I open the clip and then pull it off, okay? Pull that out, and what do we have? Voila! Refletched arrow. Now our second scenario is the one I like, which is a bare arrow. And the reason that I like a bare arrow better is because every fletching jig I've ever come across has got these clicks. So you click it and you click it, right? And that's supposed to be our index fletching. And it can be off by as much as 10 or 15 degrees from jig to jig. And so if this was fletched on a different jig, if things aren't quite lined up, your fletchings won't always be at 120 degrees. If you start with a bare arrow and put your first fletching on this mark, your 3 fletchings will be at 120 degrees and you get a perfect arrow. So anyway, let's go from there. So what I'm going to do, folks, I'm going to start with this bare arrow. First thing I'm going to do is get all the glue residue off using my scraper. All right, so I've taken my scraper here and gone back and forth here, and it's also got this little side scraper, which is really nice for cleaning your arrow off. And I've gotten this shaft clean. I've got my fletching jig set up on the index mark, which I added. That didn't come like that, I added it, okay? This goes down in that V-notch, and this goes down in this notch here. The arrow sits like that. You're gonna put one color fletching here, then you're gonna turn this till it clicks, put a second, turn it till it clicks, put a third, and I'll show you guys that now. Now, when I fletch a bare shaft arrow, I always put it at this little notch right here. And then that way I don't have to figure out which mark to line it up with. It's always at the back here. I'm going to use a white fletching for my index because I have less of those than I have reds. And that's my only reason, no particular reason. And again, if you're very particular, you'll always use the same color index fletching and the same color of regular fletching. Run our bead of glue here. Again, try to run a fairly nice even bead end to end. Take your fletching clamp, put it up here, all the way back, clip it to the magnet, push and hold, usually 10 seconds or so. Okay, nice long. Some folks hold it longer. That's up to you. Like I said, some folks will leave this magnetized here and they'll walk away and let it dry like this. Okay, so open your clip, open it up. We're going to rotate our jig. Always rotate it towards you so that this magnet doesn't knock your still drying fletching. Hear it click. Now we're going to put a red fletching. All right, guys, red fletching at the very, very back notch there. Bring this down. Line it up with the back of the jig there. And press it in. Hold it. Like I said again, I always just count to 10. It works pretty well for me. Okay, so count to 10. And once we get there, squeeze that clip, pull it off, and then rotate around to fletching number 3. So that third click, we'll get another red fletching. All right, fletching number 3. Again, line it up with the back of the jig, clip it to the magnet, and then push it down. Hold it and let it set. Just hold it and let it set. Okay. Give that glue just a chance to start bonding. The other thing I'll say while I'm waiting on this is some folks will clean their shaft with acetone or nail polish remover, something like that, just to make sure that they get this thing nice and clean and pretty, okay? So I just noticed something, guys. When I'm pressing down on this, every now and then if I press down on this, this arrow will actually slide out of this V, and it moved my fletching back about 1/8 of an inch. If you catch that real quick, you can pull this off and fix it. And so I just did that. So anyway, careful how hard you press and watch that this thing doesn't slide. It's hard for me to see when I'm on camera. I actually normally will hold the arrow here so that it can't do that, and then hold this here, but I'm trying to hold the camera. So anyway, squeeze that, let it go. There we go. All right, and what do we see but a very well fletched, symmetric arrow? So you see those three are all evenly spaced, very pretty, very straight. And that's what we want, folks. That's what we want. So anyway, that would be a very nice target arrow for someone who's shooting in their backyard. These fletching jigs are inexpensive. This type here with the magnet can be had for, 20 some bucks up on into the 50s. Well above that, truthfully, if you're getting into something made out of metal. And they also make one that's got 2 little pegs that you can use that's even cheaper than that. So, I mean, if you're refletching arrows just for shooting at a target in your backyard, you can refletch your arrows relatively cheaply. And it's honestly kind of relaxing. It's kind of neat, especially if you're shooting carbon arrows, because it saves you a ton of money. So anyway, hope this is helpful, guys. Appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. Let us know what you want to see.